Hi, good morning. This is Vivek Mehra. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at Umlidur, and I have with me here Ramneek Bhatia. Ramneek is a good friend, and he's been in the hospitality industry for the last 20 years and is an advisor to Umlidur. He currently leads the sustainability vertical at Habitat India. So, welcome, Ramneek.
Thanks,
First,
Vivek. Thanks for having me over, and thank you to the Only Good team.
yes, for sure. So, Ramnik, what I wanted to chat with you today is sustainability in the hospitality industry, where we are, where we are headed. And first off, wanted to ask, what is the imperative today that you see for hotels and businesses in the hospitality industry to become more sustainable?
Yeah, so as an impact, hotels have always been very attractive to the five senses, and people get attracted to the luxury and to the comforts and to the food and to the ambience which hotels have to offer. And they're always leaders. So whether it's technology, whether it's interior design, whether it's architecture. So I think now we are at a phase where sustainability is a differentiator. They have to integrate it because I think the millennials, as we call them, they are very active in terms of the planet positive living, in terms of understanding the impact of carbon, the global warming, the climate change which is happening. And they also understand that there's a window of about 7 to 8 years for us to create the right transition. So, from the customer side, from the guest experience side, the hotels need to move ahead. Second is also in terms of making themselves more profitable. So, post COVID, they have been more tech driven because they lost a lot of manpower, experienced manpower. Now, most of the hotels globally could be operating at maybe 10 to 15% lower manpower.
Right.
So they are enabling themselves through technology. And sustainability strategy is not just about talking about changing plastic bottles, it's more than that. In enhancing software, enhancing technology to become more compliant. And it's a sustainability as an integral strategy for all corporates and for the industry as well.
Yeah, no, great. As a consumer and as a buyer of hotel services, I mean, I find myself drawn to hotels that tout themselves as being sustainable, and all things being equal, I choose those. But what do you see as some of the best practices that hotels are following for sustainability?
So I think when we talk about being sustainable, it has various aspects. So let's look at the energy side first, because the third most important part of the P&L for a hotel is HLP. So you look at
Heat, light, and power.
yeah, heat, light, power, and first is definitely the manpower cost and the food cost. So HLP is a very important part. So and today, as we look at the grids, it's all fossil fuel. So when you look at energy, you're looking at fossil fuel consumption, which is leading to carbon, which leads to global warming, and that's the reason we are, having the hottest, warmest year is 2023.
And
So
everybody can see that.
everybody can see that it's all over. So I think if you look at the energy side, they can have green, so they can have their solar and maximize that to the whatever hill they can, because they have a lot of land. They have the terraces, so they can do solar, which is green, and you're having a lower carbon footprint. So I think the key would be the carbon footprinting. So that's one part. Second is how they manage their waste. So whatever waste goes out, if they can be relooking at how they can reuse whatever is wasted, whether it is water resilience is the key. India will be water starved over a period of time. So water resilience, there is technology which helps you reuse. A lot of hotels do it. So they would be using the water, whether it's the boilers or whether it is from the sanitation waste. So they reuse it. But there can be a proper emphasis on this. Third is food. So hotels are getting mindful in terms of food wastage, and composting is happening. So that's happening. Another thing which they can do is they look at plastic. So even today, if you were to go to a five-star luxury hotel in even Delhi, yes, they could be using glass bottles in a cafe or a restaurant.
Right.
But if you go to a conference or a party, they would be using plastic bottles. It's still happening. It's a big challenge. How do you manage a thousand people party and manage it without plastic? So what they can do is they can upcycle the plastic. They should be having tie-ups with companies which can take away the plastic. It should not be ending up in landfills
Or not use plastic at all.
or not use plastic at all. But that's a long game.
Yeah.
So
Much harder to accomplish.
much harder. But then what they can do is like there are companies now, there are startups which we know of. They're using plastic to upcycle into a bag. It could be a jacket, it could be a t-shirt.
Right,
So
of course. Apparel as well.
apparel as well. So that can happen. So two sides. One is energy, and second is your waste, and third is I think the most important part is green mindsets. So as a team, so hotels run on SOPs. They run on service standards. So they can also incorporate sustainability standards into the weekly meetings, the daily meetings, and lastly, but most important, is educate customers. So customers can be given a lot of incentives that you don't need to do your laundry every day. So you can be very mindful in using your towels. You can be very mindful in choosing what you do. So even if I'm in a luxury hotel, I can be very sensible. I can have a well-being behind it. So how you position yourself with the customers, that becomes a very important part. So customers also become part of the journey. So that's what they can do in simple terms.
No, that's excellent. So there's clearly a lot of good work being done. But when you advise hotels as part of Habitat India, do you find that it's only the large hotels doing it or smaller ones doing it? And also, is this seen more as a compliance or sort of a reputational or a perception burden? Or are they actually deriving any ROI from sustainability initiatives? Are hotels
Yeah.
actually finding that?
So if you look at the larger chains, whether it's a Marriott or an IHG or an Accor, all of them have global targets. So
For reduction.
for reduction. So they have net zero goals. They would be wanting to move towards targets which they have set globally. However, the brands which they own, they don't own the hotel asset. So the hotel assets are basically owned by individuals.
The least, yeah.
They could be leased, but mostly they are on management contracts. So if I am a owner of a land and I have a hotel, I could get in a IHG as a brand. I could get a Marriott as a brand. So they give the know-how. They
So
give.
the targets don't mean much for the.
So as a owner of a property, I want to maximize my ROIs on my investments.
Right.
However, the globally the brands, they have the targets because the world has to move towards net zero. So as part of their growth plans and their brands evolving towards sustainability, it is being driven from the brand side. So it's very important to integrate the individual asset owner to be part of the journey, because initially it could be an investment in sustainability, but it has a big ROI as well. Not only in terms of how the guests perceive you as a brand, but also the sustainability initiatives become more resource efficient. So
So
it
you
could,
save money.
you save money. So I think sustainability is an integral part of strategy, and it's resource efficient. So the minute you become resource efficient, you're going to have a better P&L.
So you do actually there is a short-term ROI even beyond differentiation.
Yes, there is a short term, there is a medium term, there is a long term ROI on all investments
Certainly
made.
customer loyalty. Like I know one would be loyal to a brand that is clearly sustainable and has sustainable practices. So what do you see as maybe some gaps that hotels are not doing, even the large ones, or even smaller ones might say, look, this thing is very capex heavy. If I want to install solar, I'm going to have to fork out so much money. I don't know when the ROI might come. What would you say to them, and what are some of the gaps that hotels can fill?
So I think the critical gap is that they need to have data. So it cannot be just on whims and fancies and just
A qualitative
yes, that
narrative.
it cannot be piecemeal. That let's do something. I think just the way they have because I think that the hotel industry has a very long term thinking. An asset which is made, the way it is made, it's great for 30-40 years. So if you take that into account from the capex side, they can incorporate sustainability at the planning stage itself. So that's a big gap.
Strategy.
Yes, as a strategy that when you're planning the building, you plan it accordingly. It could be a green building. It could have efficiency right from the inception.
Right.
Second is that I think the CEO of the hotel, the general manager of the hotel, he can play a very important role. So they can drive the emissions in a manner that it becomes much more efficient. So for that they need data. For that they need softwares. For that they need consultants. So right now it's more of let's move away from plastic to glass.
It's
let's
ad hoc.
yeah, it's ad hoc. Yeah, so that can be taken away from the daily operations through a sustainability strategy, just the way you spoke about yourself as a CSO, chief sustainability officer. So rather having a global CSO, you can have a sustainability manager as an integral part of the hotel.
And
So
have their KRA tied to
exactly.
measurable outcomes.
Exactly. So it's much more documented, it's much more systemized. So I think the key is, according to me, what I've understood in the last 14 months of my journey in focusing on sustainability and different assets, is data is the key. Second is insights. And third is what you do with it.
Actionable insights.
Actionable insights, yes.
So, and what data are we talking about? Like, if I were to start collecting data today as a hotelier, what might I collect? What kind
So,
of data?
great question, because this is something which I explain to people that for us, data is always in rupees and dollars. So, I think that's on an Excel sheet,
Right.
and that comes on your P&L. So, just beyond that, there is a deeper dive, which is basically the emissions. Okay, there could be water usage, there could be diesel usage, there could be the cooking gas usage.
Right.
So, how do you quantify that? So that is where you need to just change the currency to much more meaningful data points. So if I am using, 90% of the time as urban citizens we spend in the built environments. So the COP28 we just concluded talking about built environments as a leader, because built environment has a huge footprint in terms of carbon emissions.
And they have to transition away from fossil. I mean, that's the clear
Exactly,
message. Yeah.
exactly. So I think the data points which they look at every day in terms of ADRs and sales and occupancies and food sales, they can take lower down, not just percentage in terms of costs, but in terms of units. How much electrical units are we using?
Kilowatt hours.
Kilowatt hours,
Liters of water.
what is the waste? So
Tons of waste.
yeah, exactly. So when you start monitoring it on a daily basis, I think the first key part is knowing where you are. So if you were to look at a GPS, its current location to where I want to go. So if I can just translate that to where am I today in terms of data points. So first is establish yourself today. And then you have these data points coming in every week, every month in terms of my transition towards a greener, cleaner way of being as a property, as a hotel, as a brand.
No, that's very fascinating, because what we find is when we do carbon monitoring for hotels, it's very easy for them to compare and contrast facilities and say, okay, I have these five facilities, and the carbon per room in this one is lower than this one, right? So maybe I can price this one higher, or I can save energy
Yeah.
in the other one that's not doing this. So I think, to summarize, what might you say are the benefits for having a clear sustainability strategy and carbon monitoring for both hotels and for customers?
So, if you were to look at India, I think whatever data we go through, whatever info we go through, I think we are just entering the golden age of travel in India. Because from a $3.8 trillion economy, we are looking at maybe a $6 trillion economy in the next 6 years.
Right.
And all initiatives, I was at a conference where Mr. Sindhya was there, he was the keynote, and he spoke really well about what is the transition of India in terms of just airports. And it was great listening to him. And if you look at the travel, it's a function of all carbon. So you travel through air, you travel on your cars, or you could be having a cruise. So it's very carbon heavy. So if you look at that, and then you look at hotels, so where do you look at, you can say, economizing or being planet worthy?
Yeah, how do you grow sustainability?
Yes, so planet positive living is what we call it. So I think from the customer standpoint of view, there are a lot of brands which have done work. If you look at booking.com today, you want to check into a hotel or book a hotel, they always rate it. So for me, it becomes a very important part that how green the hotel is or what is the eco rating of hotel. So today, hotels can be rated. The individual asset can be rated in terms of the ecology, in terms of the green
So
footprint
clearly,
it has.
there's a differentiator, and for the buyer, there's
Yes.
a great benefit.
It's a great benefit, and you can sleep very easy. You can have a conscience which is clear, because you might be indulging yourself, but it's indulging meaningfully. So you could be checking into a luxury, upscale, mid-scale property, whatever, but you know that this hotel's carbon footprint is lower than X
So
or
that
Y.
has to be quantified. So I
It
think
has
the
to be
key insight
quantified.
you have is that, stay away from qualitative measures, look at carbon data as
Exactly.
the real emission factor, and show it declining year on year.
In fact, carbon is the key. if you want to go green, you want to understand, you need to understand carbon to the hilt. I think it should be part mandatory for everybody to understand carbon.
Yeah.
As global citizens, and we have only one planet, we are using resources which equal to 1.7 Earths, not one Earth.
That's true.
So carbon it should be the key for everybody.
And the compliance is coming.
Yes.
In India, the BRSR report, in Europe, the CBAM, the CSRD, California's new climate act. So I think the compliance is going to come upon the hospitality industry. I think, I'm hearing, positive signs where hotels and hotel chains and large or small are taking meaningful steps towards sustainability.
Yes, in fact, I think it's more than the compliance part, which is very important. So governments can do policy to a certain level, but I think it's voluntary. So when you plan the best hotel possible on the planet, or you plan an asset which is very future ready, I think the new word which I look at is that it has to be planet friendly. So if you are future forward, you need to be planet friendly.
Excellent.
So one is that. Second is that the halo effect of a brand comes on the customer as a guest. So I trust the hotel. I trust the restaurant that the meal I'm getting, the room I'm getting is safe, it's secure.
Given the choice that everybody has.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it should be safe and secure for the planet as well. So I think the hotels in the long run, even in the short term, their ADRs, the average daily rates, can reflect it.
Absolutely.
So and people would be willing to pay a premium, and they are willing to pay a premium. So in fact, Lufthansa came up with this green fuel initiative in Europe some time back. I was hearing a talk about it, and the people were willing to pay even a higher price for the ticket, for the air ticket. So I think we have evolved over a period of time, and the next gen with data, I think they can do wonders.
Great. So thank you for the insight, Ramneek. I think it's clearly a differentiator. Carbon monitoring and a quantitative approach towards ESG and carbon monitoring is both beneficial for the hotel as well as for the customer and definitely the planet.
In fact, there are BMS now, building management systems, which can integrate all the softwares, which can actually give you on your pad or on your phone, if you are having 10 assets, it can showcase every asset, how green or how brown or red it is. So it's up to you how you want to monitor it.
And
so
what actions you want to take.
what action? So your data points, and it's very easy to do it through softwares. There are companies which are marrying, artificial intelligence to machine learning, and it can be monitored every minute, wherever your
So
asset
certainly, so
is.
we at Only Good espouse continuous monitoring of carbon and also forecasting, what the future carbon footprint will be for a hotel or a chain. So with that, we'll wrap up. Thank you, Ramneek,
Surely.
for your insight.
Thank you very much, and
Next time.
I must congratulate you and your team for doing this fabulous job, because this is the need of the hour.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Till next time, we'll sign off here.
Thank you very much.